I will now introduce Ambassador Richard Nduhuura. Until his appointment as permanent representative of his country, he was Minister of State for Health since 2006. Prior to that, he served as Minister of State for Local Government from 2005 to 2006. Between 2003 and 2005, he was Minister of State for Trade, prior to which he served as Minister of State for Industry since 2001. Between 1989 and 1998, Ambassador Nduhuura was self-employed veterinarian and farmer, having served as a veterinarian officer in the Ministry of Animal Industry and Fisheries from 1979 to 1989. Ambassador Nduhuura holds a Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine from Makerere University College of Veterinary Medicine. Without further ado, I present you Ambassador Richard Nduhuura.
Colleague Excellencies, the Vice President of the Journalists and Writers Foundation, the Director Global Affairs of the Peace Island Institute, dear panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. When I was approached by the Director of Global Affairs, Peace Island Institute, in my office, I thought that I should coin my talk or statement around health issues, but along the way, some conflicts in Africa erupted, and I took my holiday back home, and right in my neighborhood, there was a conflict, that's South Sudan, in which, as you have heard, Uganda intervened almost immediately with our national army at the invitation of the government of South Sudan, and that helped to create some stability, although the conflict is still raging. So for that matter, I decided to leave the subject about health, just to shelve it, because I'm very sure that I'll be invited again in future, and then we could tackle that matter at that time. I take this opportunity to thank the Peace Islands Institute for organizing this important debate and also for inviting me as a panelist to this meeting. Indeed, the notion of African solutions to African problems has always been and is dear to our hearts in Africa. I wish to quote one of our founding fathers, the late Kwame Nkrumah, former president of Ghana, who stated that, I quote, "The survival of free Africa, the extending independence of the continent, and the development towards that bright future on which our hopes and endeavors are pinned, depend upon political unity and African solutions to the African problems." Unquote. The state of peace and security on the African continent remains a preoccupying phenomenon with successes and continuing challenges. Indeed, alongside the steady progress in the establishment of the African Union Continental Peace and Security Architecture, as well as establishment of regional and sub-regional organizations, such as the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, East African Community, the South African Development Corporation, and many others, to mention but a few, with great and promising achievements on the continent, should always be venerated. However, the geopolitical map of Africa continues to bear the marks of several latent crises. There are also multiple full-blown conflicts, in the face of which peace efforts are often met with opposition or simply foiled by the existence of diverse challenges. These diverse challenges are often based on the logic of confrontation and on rivalries to the detriment of concepts and ideological orientations that are more receptive to the exigencies of the peaceful solutions anchored on dialogue, peaceful settlement of disputes, compromise, and win-win for mutual benefit. Although it is instructive to note that not all the continent is beset by conflicts. Where they exist, conflicts have led to devastating effects, including deaths to innocent civilians, refugees across borders, internal displacements, loss and destruction of property, disruption of socio-economic activities, as well as costs relating to their management and resolution. The innocent people of Africa deserve a settled life to fully exploit their potential, and this aspiration is enshrined in the Constitutive Act of the African Union to promote peace, security, stability, and development on the continent. Excellencies, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is endowed with a wealth of resources, both human and natural. Without peace, these resources cannot be fully and optimally harnessed to ensure the much needed development on the continent. There is a term we normally use in the medical world. We say starving in the midst of plenty. For patients with diabetes, they have so much sugar, and at times this sugar cannot be mobilized, so you end up starving in the midst of plenty. Indeed, the scourge of conflicts in Africa constitutes a major impediment to the socio-economic development of the continent. Without peace, development is not possible, and also true is the maxim that without development, peace is not durable. Therefore, the spirited efforts of we, the Africans, and our leaders of the continent must remain focused to achieve peace and development. In this globalized world, it is true that many African countries are small and uncompetitive. The most important agenda on the African continent, spearheaded by African Union and regional economic communities, is promotion of regional and continental integration. This position is also inspired by much richer nations in the world, which have found it necessary to embrace integration for bigger markets and production lines, as well as social and political stability. Ridding the continent of lingering conflicts would therefore provide a conducive environment for faster integration, stability, and development. On the basis of our observation and engagements over the years, there is no doubt that there is a desire and commitment on the part of Africa and the international community to resolve conflicts on the continent. This desire and commitment are well expressed in previous and recent regional efforts undertaken to ensure security, stability, and development. Examination of regional efforts towards long-lasting peace in Africa reveals that they have been successful where they have occurred. Where the conflicts have persisted, the problem has been lack of implementation of agreed positions because of various reasons, including external interference and our own internal constraints. It is therefore my submission that we continue to be inspired by past experiences where resolutions to African conflicts have been possible because of active involvement of all the African parties concerned and African ownership and drive of the peace processes. I think my colleague here referred to the conflict in the DRC and the way it has been handled. But for a long time, the approach, I think, was wrong. Because for about 14 years, there was a peacekeeping mission in Eastern DRC, but we did not see a lot of results until the mandate of that mission was made more robust. And here, the region also came in, because the idea of the intervention brigade was actually hatched by the region, and the region called it a neutral international force, but at the level of the UN, it was given a new name, Intervention Brigade. And that's how the Republic of South Africa, the Tanzania, and Malawi contributed their forces to work together, or to work under MONUSCO, but have keep that peace enforcement element. And that's what has at least made the situation much better than it was. And we believe that at this rate, we should be able to solve other conflicts if we use that robust mandate, other than having the peacekeeping missions. And we say these ones are there to protect the civilians, but then their mandate is limited. When it is limited and does not have any element of peace enforcement, then you don't solve many problems. You don't solve problems. But that was a very good learning experience, and I believe that judging from even the debate at the Security Council today, because that's where I was before I came here, the members of the Security Council themselves are convinced, at least from their speeches, that should be the way to go, and that there is a need for immediate response to situations. But if we have to wait, we wait for genocides at times. We see massacres, we see genocide, which could easily be prevented. So, with regional efforts, with the assistance of the UN, it is very possible to handle these conflicts in a manner that will not result in a lot of loss of lives. Africa, with its regional economic communities, have anchored African solutions to African problems. Hence, peace and stability are gradually being realized in the sub-regions and the entire African continent. The following achievements, for example, have been spearheaded by African and regional solutions or efforts. 1. Establishment of the African Union Peace and Security Council. The Arusha peace process that culminated into peace and stability in Burundi. Fighting terrorism such as Al-Shabaab, who have linkages with Al-Qaeda, that is in Somalia by AMISOM, which is an African force. This has already been alluded to by the moderator. Regional efforts to address instability in DRC, e.g. the outcome of the Kampala talks between DRC and M23 to find a durable solution to the conflict in Eastern DRC. Also, the concept to establish the neutral international force, this one I have already alluded to. Establishment of MISCA, an African-led force in Central African Republic, and the hybrid force in Mali. IGAD's role in facilitating dialogue in the recent conflict in South Sudan. Pursuing Lord's Resistance Army through regional cooperation, African Union Regional Task Force on Lord's Resistance Army. The increased robustness of the African forces to deal with armed negative forces or groups on the continent, as witnessed in the decision of the recent AU Assembly of Heads of State and Government to establish an African standby force intended for rapid deployment for a multiplicity of peace support operations that may include preventive deployment, peacekeeping, peace building, post-conflict disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, and humanitarian assistance. Then peaceful settlement of disputes by Africans as a pillar to peace and stability in Africa. Regional integration for common and wider markets, as well as tourism and investment opportunities, to mention but a few. While we thank the development partners who have supported Africa in its endeavors, I wish to quote my president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, who said that, I quote, that Africa needs to be insured from conflicts and instability instead of people or Africans having insurance for their cars, unquote. Now, there is a challenge. Whereas Africa, its organizations and regional economic communities have been compelled to deploy peace support operations, they continue to experience difficulties in financing them. Most of the African-led peace efforts and initiatives require more support by international partners to effectively carry out their mandate. Therefore, finding a dependable and assured mechanism to finance African peace support operations will make peace, security, and stability on the continent a reality. In conclusion, the need for a conflict-free Africa need not be overemphasized. On their part, African countries continue to spearhead peace processes aimed at the peaceful resolution of existing conflicts. The resolution of the conflict in Burundi and the recent Kampala declaration between DRC and M23 are classic examples of regional-led initiatives, hence African solutions to African problems. The main challenge to Africa is lack of assured means of financing these efforts, especially peace support operations and post-conflict reconstruction, which require stable funding. Now, I think earlier on I watched I watched on the screen someone commenting, Africa has a lot of resources, but then it also has challenges. Those challenges and problems are a global responsibility. I thought that was spot on. The challenges, responsibilities are a global responsibility. Therefore, more genuine support from the development partners shall continue to play a significant role. Once again, I want to thank Peace Island Institute for giving me this opportunity, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk to this distinguished audience. And I look forward to a very interactive discussion so that something better for Africa can come out. I thank you.